There is a longing that lives quietly in many hearts, a soft ache, a whisper that says, someone out there is meant for me. Not just anyone, but someone who seems to carry the other half of your soul. Some call it fantasy, others call it fate. But beyond the noise of the world, beyond the stories we repetitively hear about love, there is something older, something sacred, that speaks of twin souls. They are not simply lovers. They are two pieces of the same spark, divided long ago by the winds of time, scattered across lives and bodies, each walking their own path until the hour of reunion. This isn't the kind of love found in fairy tales. It's not about perfection or passion without pain. It's a deeper recognition, as if your soul suddenly remembers something your mind never knew. You look into their eyes and feel like you've come home. Not the kind of home built by bricks and roofs, but the kind made of silence, peace, and knowing. It's as if the universe paused for a moment, exhaled, and in that breath you met again. But here's the mystery. Is this meeting real? Or are we just projecting our desire for connection onto a stranger who happens to make us feel seen? The truth is, the path of the twin soul begins with the self. Before you can find them, you must remember yourself. Heal yourself. Face your shadows. Because the twin soul does not come to complete you. They come to reflect you. And in that mirror, you won't only see light, you'll see your wounds, your fears, your forgotten dreams. They come not to rescue, but to awaken. Not to carry you, but to walk beside you as two flames dancing toward the same fire. Some may never meet them in this lifetime. Some may meet them and not recognize. Some may find them and lose them, only to rediscover them again in another form, another life, another breath. But one thing remains. The soul remembers, even when the mind forgets, even when the world denies. So, is the idea of twin souls just a romantic illusion? Or is it the soul's deepest truth calling us back to where we belong? The answer is not in books or logic. It is in the silence between your heartbeats, in the dreams you cannot explain, in the eyes that look at you, not as you are, but as you've always been. Long before time had a name, before the stars were hung in the sky and the earth knew the warmth of a sunrise, there was unity, a vast, silent presence, whole, luminous, complete. And from this divine silence, souls were born. Not many, but few, and some of them unique. Among them, there were those who came as one, yet destined to experience the world as two. Twin souls, one essence, split gently by the hands of the infinite, not as punishment, not as exile, but as sense, but as purpose. Each half sent on a separate journey, into different bodies, in different lands, under different skies. They would forget. They would wander. They would fall in love with others, build lives, face sorrows, dance with joy, yet always carry an invisible echo, a longing not quite explained by the world around them. Because within them lived a memory older than this life, the memory of oneness. These souls were not meant to find each other quickly. They were meant to grow, to burn, to break open, to face themselves in solitude, to confront the illusions of love, to dissolve their masks, until the soul, raw and open, became ready again to see. Only then, when the moment was right, not in clock time, but in soul time, would they cross paths. A glance, a word, an energy, and something awakens. Not excitement, not attraction, but remembrance. It is not that you meet them. It is that you recognize them, as if the universe whispered, "There you are, I've been waiting." And yet, this meeting is not the end of the story. It is only the beginning. Because the twin soul doesn't arrive to complete your life. They arrive to remind you of who you are beyond it. This is why their presence shakes you, not because they are your missing half, but because they reflect your forgotten wholeness. Together, they carry a mission: to love not just each other, but to awaken the sacred in the world through their union. Their love is not for themselves alone. It's a light meant to be shared, a frequency that heals, a reunion that echoes far beyond two bodies, one soul, two journeys, one return. Sometimes we wonder why the one our soul longs for hasn't appeared yet. We look up at the stars, sit in silence, or even stare at ourselves in the mirror. Where is my other half? But the path of the soul doesn't move in the frantic pace of an eager heart. It moves in the rhythm of growth. You see, a twin soul is not just a person. It's a meeting destined by fate. And fate is not in a hurry. It waits for both souls to be ready to look at each other without masks, without defenses, without illusions. Maybe the reason we haven't met our twin soul yet is because we are still finding ourselves. Perhaps there are parts of us we avoid, pains we hide, fears that silently control our choices. The twin soul doesn't come to distract us. It comes to reveal us. It comes as a mirror, and the mirror can only show what you are ready to see. That's why, before we cross paths with the one who shares our essence, life sends us other encounters, relationships that hurt, heal, teach, and push us back inside. Every missed connection we experience is not a mistake. It's a refinement. Every farewell, a preparation. Every moment of loneliness, a whisper from the soul saying, "Don't give up. The time hasn't come yet, but it will." And that's where many get lost. They confuse longing with spiritual calling. They believe any intense connection is a sign of reunion. But the true reunion is not loud. It's quiet, firm, and deep. It doesn't knock us off balance. It brings us into it. We haven't found our spiritual twin soul yet because we are still preparing for them, and they are also being prepared for us. Perhaps they are on the other side of the world, or maybe right next to us. But both still need to complete cycles, release baggage, face inner truths. The love between twin souls is not forced, not fabricated, not attracted through techniques. It happens when both hearts have already learned to be whole alone. And then, at last, they are ready to be whole together. So, if you haven't found them yet, don't be discouraged. Keep walking the path. Stay true to your journey. Keep healing, keep learning, keep respecting yourself. Because the deeper you dive into yourself, the closer you get to them. And when the time is right, not the time of the clock, but the time of the soul, the universe will whisper, "Now," and you will understand why you had to wait. It's not noise, it's not a spark or a fleeting thrill. When you meet your spiritual twin soul, what you feel is not euphoria. It's silence. A silence that says, "Finally." There's no need to impress. You don't have to adjust, hide, or prove yourself. For the first time, you can simply be. And that's enough. The meeting with your twin soul isn't a fairy tale. It's an awakening. It's like you've been walking in the dark for years, and suddenly someone lights a candle, not to illuminate the other, but to reveal who you've always been. There are signs that can't be explained, only recognized. A gaze that feels ancient, a touch that soothes wounds you didn't know were still open, a connection that doesn't shout, but whispers something old. "I know you," long before I met you. With them, everything feels familiar, yet new. You don't feel like you've found someone perfect. You feel like you've found someone real, someone who mirrors you, both your light and your shadow, who challenges you to grow, not to please, but to be free. The spiritual twin soul doesn't arrive to complete you. They arrive to remind you of what you forgot, of who you are, of what you two chose to be long before this life. They don't promise love without challenges, but they offer a love that doesn't run from them. You don't run toward each other. You walk side by side, with respect, with truth, with purpose. Another sign? Peace, even in the middle of chaos. Their presence doesn't excite, it calms. They don't speed up time, they make time stop. And you feel it in your body, in the way your breath changes, in the intuition that awakens, in the quiet certainty that grows in your chest. It's here, it's now, it's them. But be careful, the ego confuses things. It seeks intensity, not depth. It wants possession, not union. That's why recognizing your twin soul requires inner stillness. It takes emotional maturity and spiritual openness. You recognize them when you stop searching in others for what can only be found within. And then, without warning, they appear, not to complete you, but to walk with you. Because finding your twin soul isn't the end of the search. It's the beginning of a greater journey, a journey of two hearts remembering together the way back home. In the quiet corners of life, there are stories that defy logic, love that doesn't follow the rules. These are the stories of twin souls, two individuals whose paths are fated to cross, not by chance, but by the invisible threads of destiny. One such story is that of Sarah and David. They met not in the romantic way we expect, but through an unlikely series of events. Sarah had been through a series of failed relationships, each leaving her with more questions than answers about love. She didn't believe in soulmates anymore. Instead, she believed in practicality, in the idea that love is a choice, not a force of nature. But fate had other plans. David entered her life at a time when she least expected it, and in a way she never could have imagined. It wasn't a grand gesture or an instant spark. They met through mutual friends over a simple conversation about a book. At first, Sarah didn't think much of it, but something lingered in the back of her mind. There was an undeniable pull, a quiet recognition that grew stronger with every conversation. As weeks passed, Sarah began noticing patterns in her life. Things she'd been searching for suddenly seemed clearer. David wasn't just a person in her life. He was a reflection of everything she had hidden away inside herself. He challenged her, not in a way that left her frustrated, but in a way that awakened parts of her she had long buried. Then came the realization. This was different. This was not just another relationship. This was a meeting of two souls that had been searching for each other for lifetimes. The connection wasn't about romantic love alone. It was about remembering who they truly were. They were mirrors, both showing each other what needed to be healed, what needed to be embraced. Another story is that of Mark and Lisa. Their meeting was even more serendipitous. Mark had always felt that there was something missing in his life. He had loved, he had lost, and yet there was still an unshakable sense of emptiness. His life was full, but he still longed for something he couldn't name. Lisa, on the other hand, had always been a seeker, someone who felt deeply but struggled to find a sense of purpose. She had tried countless paths to peace, but nothing seemed to bring her the fulfillment she sought. One rainy afternoon, they crossed paths at a local coffee shop. No one else was there, and a casual conversation turned into hours of shared stories, laughter, and a strange sense of familiarity. Mark looked at Lisa and felt something he couldn't explain. Lisa, equally moved, had the same thought. This is not just chance. As time passed, their connection deepened. It wasn't just about the love they shared, but the way their presence brought clarity to each other's lives. They were two souls who had come together to heal and grow. These are not isolated stories. There are countless others. People who meet, often unexpectedly, and find themselves in a union that transcends time and space. When twin souls come together, it's not just a meeting of two hearts. It's the merging of two destinies, carefully woven together by the hands of fate. Their journey is never just about love. It's about rediscovery, healing, and awakening. Twin souls are not here to fill a gap. They are here to make us remember who we truly are. When two destinies cross, something beautiful happens, something that can only be described as fate. When two souls destined for each other finally meet, the connection is more than emotional. It becomes sacred. In the journey of twin souls, the physical encounter is not just a moment of pleasure or desire. It is a deep act of remembrance, a merging that echoes the union they once shared beyond time, beyond form. In the modern world, sexuality is often reduced to instinct or entertainment. But between twin souls, sex is a spiritual language. It speaks in silence, in breath, in the subtle rhythm of two beings who recognize each other not with their minds, but with their essence. It is not about performance or expectation. It is about surrender. Two souls returning home through the sacred temple of the body. This type of connection transcends the body itself. The physical act becomes a bridge, a living ritual where energy flows, not just through touch, but through intention, presence, and love. The encounter is a ceremony where each caress is a prayer, each gaze is a vow, and each moment of stillness is filled with the memory of lifetimes shared. For twin souls, sexuality is not separate from spirituality. In fact, it becomes the purest expression of it. When the barriers of ego fall, when both are present without masks, what happens is not just chemistry, it's alchemy. The energy exchanged can awaken parts of the soul that have been dormant, heal wounds buried deep, and bring clarity that no words could provide. This sacred intimacy often brings tears, not from sadness, but from recognition. It's the soul whispering, "I remember you." The body, usually used to carrying the weight of daily life, finally becomes light. The heart, often guarded, opens wide. Time seems to pause, and in that pause, something eternal is touched. It's important to understand that this kind of sexual-spiritual union does not happen with just anyone. It cannot be forced nor faked. It is not a technique, but a calling. It requires vulnerability, authenticity, and above all, love that is not possessive, but liberating. Twin souls do not consume each other. They expand one another. And when the physical act ends, something lingers. A peace, a glow, a silent knowing that something sacred just occurred. They don't walk away feeling used or emptied. They feel seen, cherished, awakened. The encounter nourishes both spirit and flesh because it came from truth. In a world that often separates the body from the soul, twin souls remind us they are not enemies. They are partners in the divine dance of creation. Sex, when guided by love and awareness, becomes more than union. It becomes communion. And through that communion, they don't just touch each other. They touch the divine within. In the silent longing for love, many souls fall into a trap, mistaking intensity for truth and attachment for destiny. It is one of the greatest deceptions of the spiritual path, the false connection that feels divine, but is rooted in the ego's hunger. False twin flames or soulmates appear like mirrors. They reflect your desires, speak your language, share your wounds. The pull is magnetic, almost overwhelming. But something doesn't settle. There is passion, yes, but not peace. There is chemistry, but not clarity. The relationship burns, but it does not illuminate. Instead, it consumes. Why does this happen? Because the ego is a master of disguise. It can dress up fear as love. It can mimic spiritual language, rituals, and even synchronicities to justify a bond that is in truth dysfunctional. When we crave connection from a place of emptiness, we become vulnerable to illusions. We attract those who echo our unmet needs, not our soul's purpose. These false connections often teach us through contrast. They show us what love is not. They are often filled with highs and lows, obsession, dependency, and cycles of pain followed by intense reconciliation. It's not uncommon to feel spiritually activated in these dynamics, mistaking the chaos for growth. But spiritual connection without emotional maturity is not evolution. It's confusion. The danger is subtle. Because the ego doesn't want truth, it wants comfort, validation, and identity. So it clings. It says, "This must be my twin flame." Because the pain is so intense, it says, "We are meant to be because we keep coming back to each other." But repetition is not destiny, and suffering is not love. True spiritual connection feels different. It may not be as dramatic, but it is grounding. It brings clarity, not confusion, expansion, not contraction. You feel more like yourself, not less. You grow, not shrink. There is honesty, not manipulation. Space, not control. Freedom, not fear. To avoid the trap of false connections, we must turn inward. The ego seeks the other to fill a void. The soul seeks to share its fullness. Before you can recognize your true spiritual partner, you must first become one with yourself. Heal the wounds. Listen to the silence. Befriend the solitude. Because when you are whole, you no longer chase sparks. You attract fire. Remember, not every intense bond is sacred. Not every soul that enters your life is meant to stay. Some arrive to wake you up, to show you where you are still asleep. Others come to test your discernment, your boundaries, your growth. Be grateful for the lessons, but do not confuse the teacher with the destination. The ego can imitate the sacred, but it cannot sustain it. In time, the mask always slips. The illusion fades, and if you're willing to see with your soul, not your fear, you'll walk away stronger, wiser, and more open to what's real. Real love doesn't confuse, it reveals. It doesn't rush, it unfolds. It doesn't trap, it frees. And when it's true, you won't need to convince yourself. You'll just know. Not in your mind, not even in your heart, but in your soul. Before the soul can meet its mirror in another, it must first learn to recognize its own reflection. We speak often of soulmates as if they are somewhere out there, hidden in the world, waiting for us to stumble upon them. But the real journey begins within. The sacred union we seek with another is a reflection of the harmony we cultivate inside ourselves. When your heart is at war with your mind, when your past still whispers louder than your present, when fear speaks louder than intuition, no relationship can bring true peace. Not because love isn't possible, but because love cannot grow where the soil is unsettled. The twin soul does not arrive to complete you. It appears when you have remembered your own completeness. This is not about being perfect. It is about being whole, being at peace with your story, accepting your shadows, honoring your light. It means you no longer seek love from a place of emptiness, but from a place of presence. You no longer ask, "Who will heal me?" but rather, "How do I show up as love in the world?" The inner balance is a sacred alignment between the masculine and feminine energies that live within all of us. The masculine brings structure, clarity, and direction. The feminine brings intuition, compassion, and creativity. When these forces are out of harmony, we either become lost in our emotions or hardened by control. But when they dance in unity, we become the temple in which divine love can dwell. That is when the real magic happens, when you no longer search for someone to save you or awaken you, when you walk your path with courage, grace, and truth. In this space, the energy of your soul begins to radiate, and just like a tuning fork calls another into resonance, your twin soul will feel your vibration. The meeting is no longer forced, it becomes inevitable. Inner balance also teaches you discernment. You no longer confuse intensity with destiny. You can tell the difference between emotional chaos and sacred connection. You no longer rush, you observe, you listen, you wait, not out of fear, but from a deep trust that what is meant for you will find you when the time is right. The meeting of twin souls is not just a romantic event, it is a spiritual initiation. And the doorway to that initiation is inside of you. No one can open it for you. You must walk through it yourself. So breathe, be still, and return to your center. The love you are waiting for is not separate from you. It is already within you, learning how to rise. And when it does, your soul will shine like a lighthouse, not to search, but to be found. The encounter begins within. And from that sacred place, everything changes. There is a longing that doesn't come from the mind. It rises from the soul, a quiet ache that whispers, "There is someone, somewhere, who carries a part of me." This is the call of twin souls. It is not simply the search for love, but the recognition of a sacred mission shared between two beings who once were one. Twin souls are not just lovers. They are mirrors, catalysts, and companions in awakening. Their union is not built only on romance, but on purpose. When they meet, something ancient stirs. It feels like remembering more than discovering. It feels like coming home after lifetimes lost in the wilderness. But the call is not easy. It demands more than desire. It demands transformation. Before twin souls can walk together, each must awaken individually. They must burn through illusions, face their shadows, and shed identities that no longer serve the soul's path. Because the meeting of twin souls is not a fairy tale. It is a spiritual initiation. Love, in this sacred form, is not here to comfort you. It is here to awaken you, to break the chains of fear and separation, to remind you who you are beneath the noise of the world. The twin soul carries keys to parts of you you've forgotten, your voice, your vision, your truth, and together they carry a shared mission. Sometimes it's to create, to heal, to serve, or simply to love in a way that raises the frequency of the world. But their union is never just about them. It is about something greater, a divine plan unfolding through the sacred dance of two souls walking as one. Many feel this call without understanding it. They mistake it for loneliness, for restlessness, for obsession. But the soul knows. It remembers the echo of that other soul, even when the mind forgets. To hear the call is to begin the journey. To answer it is to surrender to love that transforms. And in that surrender, we don't just find another. We find the reason we were born. This is the call of twin souls, not to complete each other, but to awaken the world together. If your soul felt something stir while reading this, don't ignore it. This may be your call. Subscribe now and take the next step on your journey toward sacred love, purpose, and spiritual awakening. Your twin soul may be closer than you think.